started, yes, to say, listen, we'll pay that premium or that higher price to get something healthier than what we used to consume. Today in Saudi, the population is very young. So we have about 50% of the population is below the age of 25.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite a young population, and they're all connected. So this is where, social media plays a very big role in
Yes.
creating brands. And at the end of the day, every brand needs to be a social media brand, because this is how you target your consumers in an efficient and feasible way. Products on the shelf in the best possible visibility that you can. Make
True.
sure that your price positioning is correct and accurate. Continue on promoting it, because if you don't activate the brand in terms of discounts, promotions, whatever it is, people will not get to know it. People will not get to try it. You need to induce that trial. And,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, the way you sell a product is by making people try it. Because if you're confident with your product, put a piece of chocolate in their mouth, or whatever the product is in their mouth, and if it works, they will continue on buying it.
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the new episode of Live Sattviko Talks. Hi Nabil, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dawal. I'm fine, and you?
Thank you so much. I am doing pretty well. Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too, and thank you for having me on.
So viewers, we have with us Mr. Nabil Sultani from Saudi Arabia today. He is a partner and managing director for Saudi Arabia at Imagine FZ, which serves as an extension of its clients' team to support on their business activities in the region. So Imagine basically bridges the gap between the global brands and local expertise in FMCG. So his career in FMCG started in 2002, and as a brand manager, and made his way up to the marketing manager in top tiered FMCG distributors in Saudi Arabia. Nabil has a great passion for health and fitness, which led him to become a certified CrossFit trainer and nutrition coach as well. And hence he is guiding his personal clients to lead a healthier life. Born and raised in Jeddah, originally from Lebanon, he has embedded his roots further by marrying a successful Saudi event planner and is raising two daughters together. He has a great dream, which is having his own gym with a restaurant offering healthy and nutritious meals. So,
Yeah.
really,
Thank you. Thank you
really
very
impressive
much.
profile.
Thank you very
And
much for the introduction.
it is, you have been into FMCG for quite some time now. So how do you define the changing food landscape in Saudi Arabia?
Look, years ago, it was here in Saudi, it was very oriented towards the whole, so people bought in bulk because family sizes were quite big. Today, the family size is reducing in terms of income, and disposable income for families to spend is not as high as it used to be. And especially today with the new taxation, which was initially introduced a couple of years ago at 5%, and last July, not this July, the July before, went up to 15%. So people started feeling that impact, and people started spending less. And also we've seen the development of the modern trade, so the hypermarkets and the supermarkets. And this became a destination for family in it. So this is how the landscape changed, and you started getting more brands that are imported, of course, compliant to the regulations. And there's a lot of international influence here in Saudi when it comes to food products. And of course, recently, like the global trend, you've seen that there is a shift into more healthy products in the market. A couple of years ago, you'd find maybe just one block of healthy products. Today, you're starting to find a full aisle, and it's growing. It's still very small, but it's growing.
Right. And of course, looking at the current, of course, it has been 1.5 years into pandemic, but because of pandemic also, people have consciously started consuming, let's say, healthy snacks or healthy food kind of stuff, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, already during the pandemic, there was a bit of panic buying, and people, wanted to keep food in a way which they could eat if food was going to be an issue, which it wasn't. I mean, the country was very good in making sure that there was always supply. So a lot of people went into canned food and frozen foods because they know that they could stock this. But now, of course, everything else changed, and people, yes, initially before, people always said, they want to eat healthier, and then they'd go to a fast food chain, right? Because of the convenience, they wouldn't put the effort. And also a lot of people would tell you, but eating healthy costs a lot of money. To buy these organic products or healthy products is expensive. And then on the weekend, they go spend, a huge amount on a fancy dinner when they could actually spend this in a better way. So there's a lot of conflict of how people perceive it. But yes, because of the pandemic, and they realized how health is a big issue, and you are what you eat. So really eating healthy was keep not only the way you look healthy, but your insides healthy. And this is what you want in terms of also boosting your immunity, etc. So people now started, yes, to say, listen, we'll pay that premium or that higher price to get something healthier than what we used to consume. But still, it's still small. It's not a large part of the population. People still go into, the convenient, cheap, fast way of getting food. And it's an education process. People need to learn what you can do, because at the end of the day, they try to look at it taking more healthy snacks. But if you look at what meals you actually consume in terms of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, these could be healthy with normal products, like eggs, rice, proteins in terms of meat, chicken, vegetables. So you don't need to go into the expensive stuff.
That's right. Well, coming down to my second question. So, Nabil, since you have spent great time across both modern retail as well as standalone retail, and that too with a lot of brands. So if you can throw some light on how does modern retail operate and how does independent retail operate, and what points should be kept in mind for a new age brand to enter into such kind of retail format?
All right. So here, the way the retail environment or the FMCG environment is split, the way we split it, especially when we approach distributors or we approach any brands that want to enter, basically you have the modern trade, as you said, which are the hypermarket, supermarkets. You have the standalone retail or convenience store or regional retail or self-service stores, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Then so these two are usually part of, if you want, the modern train, because they are all pre-sell.
Sure.
Then you have the more traditional trade, which is the wholesale and the direct distribution to the small and large groceries, which we call here bakalas.
Okay.
And another one is the food service. So all of the hotels, restaurants, catering, horeca, if you want to call them.
Right.
So, of course, brands, now we're going to talk more on branding products, so we won't go into the food service that much. But when you talk about brands that want to enter the country, they need to understand the criteria of each of these channels. And as you said, to succeed, you usually succeed in the modern trade, because this is where you create the awareness, you start activating the brand, you get people to know it. And then once they see it in other channels, they already know it.
Right.
So today, I'm going to be very blunt. So the modern trade, especially the key accounts, so hypermarkets and supermarkets, are basically a retail estate or real estate business.
Absolutely. That's a pretty valid point. Absolutely.
And this is some of the misconception that a lot of brands wanting to enter the market don't have. So they have to understand that there are listing fees. Yes, there are listing fees globally. People know this, but you have to understand how much these listing fees are against which of the key accounts. What do you get against these listing fees? Then when you get the listing done, you have also a BDA, so business development agreement, where you have all of the agreements you're going to have between the distributor or the brand and the supermarket or the hypermarket, which will give you, the visibility, the commitment of spends on the brand, because they look, it's a good and bad thing. So it's between both. So it's a good thing because it encourages the brands to really take care of their brand to grow it. You know, it's not just
Yes.
dumping any brands on the shelves. On the other hand, the complexity or the obstacles for smaller to medium-sized brands, let's talk about smaller brands that will not have such huge volumes to start off with. It's difficult for them to do such investments. So
True.
this is where you find that the health and organic and, you know, niche product sector is not that big because these brands want to enter the market, but they don't have the funds to enter the market because there are so many requirements, and
Agreed.
they know that this category in any case is still a small category that is going to grow, that people are
Yes.
asking for. So there needs to be some compromise, but you know, with the number of products and brands that are always being bombarded to the retailers, they need to put a certain benchmark on what they will accept and won't accept. And this is why sometimes you get slower entries of products that are successful globally, but not in the region because of these funds or these investments.
Right. So does this also, let's say, imply, or can you also understand from this that is it a good idea to, let's say, first start with a couple of standalone stores and then parallelly enter into the modern trade stores, or I mean, what is your?
Ahmed, this is where it all depends on the product dynamics, right? Where it works. And don't forget, here you have two ways of entering the market. So one way is to assign a distributor. So
Mhm.
here, if you assign a distributor, it has to make commercial sense in terms of the volumes for
Right,
them to only target, for example, the standalone retail, as you're saying.
right.
So a distributor doesn't want to, you know, focus on something small. He wants to
True.
maximize the volumes that he could get. So they will
Absolutely.
always ask for the brand to come and invest in modern trade because this is where the start of brands will get their edge. So
Sure.
it's quite complex. The other side of the business is that a lot of these retailers or supermarkets import directly, right? So
Okay.
they see opportunities, and this is how the actual health and organic segment started, is where these supermarkets, of course, the top six, seven supermarkets, supermarket accounts, would go to trade shows and find these healthy products that they want and
Right.
start assigning consolidators in different regions, you know, in Europe, in the US, in Australia, and start getting products from the market to cater to their shoppers. But again,
True.
what would happen is that you start having layers here and the prices of these products start, you know, becoming huge. And this is where you have that gap,
Right.
right?
Got it. Got it.
So
So,
it's quite complex, but it's doable. You know, at the end of the day, sorry to have interrupted, but at the end of the day, you have to have a brand that has a business plan or an objective for the market,
true.
understanding the market, right? Knowing which distributor this will complement their portfolio, and you know, go in with knowing what they want to do, not just wanting to sell as a trading mentality.
Right. Right. So as you mentioned, Nabil, that let's say the modern trade buyers would go to US, Australia, or maybe other parts of Europe, or maybe some other countries. So based on that understanding, if you can throw some light on which all, I mean, which all markets or which all countries uh, do the Saudi Arabian retail space most influenced by?
To be honest, the biggest influence in Saudi is the US.
Okay.
The
Okay.
US. So this is, you know, this is quite historical because when there's Aramco, which is, you know, the oil bases
Yeah.
in the eastern region, there's a lot of US people who came over to Saudi to work, right,
Okay.
as
Okay.
expats. So they always requested, you know, their home country products, and this is where the direct imports business started. This is how it actually started,
Oh, is it?
and and yeah, because the shoppers asked for it. This is how
Right.
it started. So for example, the Americans would say, okay, we want our, let's say, Heinz ketchup or whatever American brand they want. And this is how they started importing products, and it started growing and growing. And don't forget, these supermarkets listen to their shoppers, and shoppers that want certain products will go and ask, listen, we are looking for this, please get it for us. So they listen, and they actually, put the effort in importing directly for these, because if they're able to find what they want in the supermarket, they will continue on doing their shopping in this supermarket, and not only buying what was imported for them, but the rest of their household requirements.
Right.
So yeah, the US is the biggest influence in terms of products. And I think the US also has the biggest array of snacks and confectionaries globally that,
Right.
satisfy
Of course.
every aspect of the share of stomach.
Right. So I think that's a really insightful thing, because of course, to build a market, there has to be certain, let's say, leaders as well, right? And to get an entry for new products, it is important that there should be some basic demand for that particular demography. So that helps the retailer as well as the brand to have a basic synchronization.
Yep. And don't forget, today in Saudi, the population is very young. So we have about 50% of the population is below the age of 25.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite a young population, and they're all connected. So this is where, social media plays a very big role in creating brands. And at the end of the day, every brand needs to be a social media brand, because this is how you target your consumers in an efficient and feasible way.
Right. So coming down to my next question. So do you believe that a simple segmentation of retailers based on historical sales, growth potential and cost to serve is crucial? And of course, prioritizing outlets, strategically developing a compelling value proposition and a differentiated service level for each segment is important from the distributors or the consultants' viewpoint.
It is very important, because today, first of all, I mean, you're not going to go into too much in their historical sales. You're going to look at the market share of this key account, of this retailer, and you will see what product you're offering. So as an example, we have a brand that we're studying for one of our clients, and they are positioned premium. Yeah.
Okay.
More premium. And so what we do here is that we always propose to go with the key accounts that have a premium shopper profile. So the key accounts caters to different classes. So we have certain key accounts, that are known to have a premium shopper profile with a higher disposable income. So you'll find that, all right, we'll start with the listing in these 3, 4, 5 key accounts that have that profile, get some traction in terms of volume to generate some sales, and then we could expand into the other accounts. So it's important to have a route to market plan when you're approaching any market. It's not just for Saudi specific.
Right. And I think this basic plan will really help you to, let's say, have a basic understanding. And then, of course, based on the consumer feedback, you can always improvise, right? So, but the basic plan is, of course, has to be in place.
100%. And, a lot of people try to be very creative in how they want to approach it. But at the end of the day, and I will always say this, the fundamentals are the most important. Get your products on the shelf in the best possible visibility that you can. Make sure that your price positioning is correct and accurate. Continue on promoting it, because if you don't activate the brand in terms of discounts, promotions, whatever it is, people will not get to know it. People will not get to try it. You need to induce that trial.
Yes.
And, because at the end of the day, the way you sell a product is by making people try it. Because if you're confident with your product, put a piece of chocolate in their mouth or whatever the product is in their mouth, and if it works, they will continue on buying it. But you need to crack that, first call to action for them to make that purchase.
True.
And this is where we say, for us, I think tasting campaigns are very important. And because of the situation of COVID, it's been really difficult, to get that through because it's not allowed for now to do wet sampling. So we're looking forward to everyone being vaccinated and hopefully getting people to taste the products that we believe are going to be very successful.
Right. So Nabil, of course, you have worked across the geographies there, and now, of course, e-commerce is also gaining popularity globally. So if you can throw some light on how e-commerce is picking up in Saudi Arabia.
So e-commerce in Saudi is still very, very small compared to the global market, extremely small. It's growing and it's growing exponentially. There are some people who are getting growth of, 100, 200, 300%, even more, on their business from the e-commerce. So it's still a little small. So we have, for example, in terms of online shopping, the retailers, the supermarkets, due to the pandemic, due to the COVID, because we were all in quarantine, some of them already had their online platforms that do their deliveries. Others had to develop it. So it helped to accelerate the supermarkets to have their online platforms and delivery services. So they do it themselves. They don't outsource it. Then you have some aggregators that will have a deal with some of the key accounts to go buy from them and deliver it to their customers.
Right.
So it's still developing, but some of the major now e-commerce platforms, and this I'm talking in general, not necessarily, not really FMCG. So you have Noon, who is doing well. Amazon Saudi is just starting to pick up. They're still far from where they are globally here in Saudi. There is some aggregators like Marsul, Na'na that do FMCG as well. So there are some. It's still not where it needs to be. The focus on these aggregators and in terms of e-commerce is more towards the food deliveries, so restaurant deliveries, etc. This is where it's growing, and it's a huge business here now. Right. So the biggest ones here are, I think, Hunger Station and Lugmati. That are quite doing very well.
Okay. Yeah, you rightly said that. Of course, since people were not allowed to move outside, and e-commerce built in such a way that, it really helped people get that convenience. So, and if we, see that from the convenience factor, it will evolve more, right? Things that people will not really would not really want to go to a store and shop it, but
but still they still want that entertainment of leaving the house and going and seeing and feeling. It's still different, to see and feel products, especially when there's always new products on the market. You're not just going to test a market or you're not going to test a product without seeing and feeling it. But that being said, there are also a lot of, if you want, companies that are developing, if you want, cloud kitchens. So cloud kitchens was to cater to the restaurants, but what they're doing now is creating cloud kitchens, but in terms of warehousing space, so that brands can go and store their products there, and have aggregators pick it up from there. So this is the next phase of what they're going to do.
Right. Got it. So coming down to my next question, so this is of course specifically for the packaged food brands who wish to enter the Saudi market. So how hard or how easy is it to get the brand registered with the authorities, and what are those basic points which the brand should really take care of while registering themselves?
So here there is the SFDA, which is the Saudi Food and Drug Authorities. So any importer, any food or non-food even, but here let's talk about food actually. Any food importer, needs to have an account with the SFDA. Okay, this account is an online account, is an online portal where any brand you want to get in, you have to register it in terms of all of the ingredients and all of the information that's on the pack, and give them a pack shot and the product artwork.
Okay.
So there are requirements in terms of being compliant with these regulations so that you can clear the products from customs. And Saudi is the strictest in terms of compliance requirements and regulations, which is honestly for us as consumers is a great thing. But for us as brands is a headache because there are things that are continually being added. So some brands need to have a lot of flexibility in changing the packaging. And those that don't have the flexibility in changing packaging this quickly need to be able to sticker whatever information is needed. So as an example, there was a regulation that was issued and all right, people changed their packaging. And then soon after the regulation to oblige brands to have the trans fat, even if the trans fat is 0. Okay. And those that already had a lot of packaging done for the previous change and didn't have this ended up just stickering the trans fat on it. Okay. Or you had to change the whole packaging.
Absolutely.
So they're very efficient. You know, you could go onto their website, which is I think sfda.gov.sa. I'm not sure. Saudi Food and Drug Authorities, they have a website. All of the information is there. Any questions you have, any brand globally can contact them directly through email, through calls. They will answer. So they're very good with this. They're very open to suggestions. Yes, they're very open to suggestions. If there are things that, for example, certain brands believe aren't working or need fixing, they will, take it into consideration if it's valid, of course. It's not just any comments. And at the end of the day, you want products that enter the market that are safe for you and for your family. So having strict compliance is quite good. So to add to this, any brand that wants to enter not only Saudi, even though Saudi is the biggest market, but the entire region, always, as advice, always look at what Saudi requires in terms of compliance.
Right.
Make that compliant. The rest, the other countries
will
definitely be compliant. Will get covered, exactly. But still, they need to double check. Right. I'm generalizing, but still, you need to double check with the authorities.
Right. So I think this really, this is also a very welcoming thing in the sense that if they are very much open for the suggestions or ideas around the packaging or the ingredients kind of thing. So I think that also invites a lot of global brands to enter into Saudi. Of course, compliance is important, but I think that's a great thing.